What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's my team selection for Game Week 28. So I'm going to show you how the team is shaping up, thoughts on transfers, captaincy, all that good stuff. And before all that, I'll quickly take you through how I did in Game Week 27. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and let's jump into it. So Game Week 27, a pretty good week. I got 105 points. That's another green arrow. That's the fourth one in a row. And I was 367k after Game Week 26. Now I'm 237k. So that's a pretty nice rise in the overall ranks. It's still not quite where I want to be, but we're getting there. My worst ever finish was 162k, so I definitely don't want to do worse than that. But I think I'm in a position now where I can push for top 100k and then just see what happens. There's a lot of weeks left, so there could be some more green arrows. There absolutely could be some disasters too. And I've only got my bench boost and free hit left. So there'll be some people out there with wild cards. They'll make gains later on, and I might lose a bit of rank then. So we need to make it count now. But I'm feeling pretty good about it because after Game Week 26, although I got a green arrow, the wild card felt like a bit of a disaster because of what happened with Liverpool. And it didn't feel that much better after the first round of games for Game Week 27. But obviously after last night, when Brentford double clean sheet came in, Estepinian got one as well. March got his goal finally. And obviously Tony got 2 returns. Things started to look a lot better. So very happy with the team. I think just on the March situation, we knew as soon as he didn't get credited with it on Saturday, that was never happening, no matter what happened afterwards, because FPL have that rule where once the game is finished an hour later, the points will not be adjusted. It does feel really unfortunate, though, because he was given it originally. That's what makes it worse. He was given the goal, they took it away, so we got our points taken off us as well, and then the goal gets given back and we don't get our points back. So is it annoying for March owners? Yes. Does it feel like the right thing? Not necessarily, but it's in the rules. We can't do anything about it. And I feel like it was a bit of justice last night that he got the goal, and I think he got a couple of bonus points as well. So that felt good. I still think going forward, McAllister is probably a better option than Solly March, but March is not so bad that you need to worry about transferring him out or anything like that. Elsewhere, one quick thing on Tony, he did get the assist in the 97th minute. That felt really good because just before that, he got his yellow card. So he would have actually finished without that yellow on slightly more points than Kane. So that would have been a pretty good captain. But overall, I was always going to go for a double game weeker anyway. But obviously, Tony is now just 1 yellow card away from a 2-game suspension. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we look ahead to Game Week 28. Elsewhere, I think the only downside of this week was probably the bench. And I did consider bench boost. I don't think I was ever going to do it because the plan was always Game Week 29. But I did consider it because I knew that Odegaard and Gabriel were decent options. And I was kind of a little bit torn between Trippier and Gabriel in terms of starting. But I had to go with the guy at home. And at least he got an assist. But once they lost the clean sheet, that did feel like a bit of a disaster to have benched Gabriel. But I think I would always do that. I think I'd always play Trippier at home to Wolves over Gabriel away to Fulham. And Fulham did hit the bar as well. So he might have lost the clean sheet on another day. It is what it is. But I just, after missing the Salah points in Game Week 26, to then bench the guy I've been waiting for a header for ages, to get a header and a clean sheet in the same game, it was annoying. But I think on another day, I could have just played Gabriel ahead of Trippier, and then I wouldn't have worried about not bench boosting, because Botman blanked, and obviously Henry and Estepinian, I was always going to play ahead of him anyway. Kepa blanked, and Odegaard got 7, but again, I was never going to play him ahead of any of those 4 midfielders. I always feel like Saka's a better option. Rashford had Southampton at home, and Matoma and March had double game week. So I don't think it was necessarily the wrong decision to not play the bench boost because I'd planned for Game Week 29, but it was something I could have done to then not have the hassle later on, you know, a couple of weeks away after the international break of trying to figure it out. But it's done now. That would have put the icing on the cake, but it was still a really good week. 105 points, another big green arrow. Let's hope we can keep that going next week. Going into Game Week 28, I've got 2 free transfers and 3.6 million in the bank. So there is a little bit of flexibility there, but I also have half an eye on double Game Week 29 because I'm definitely going to want to make some moves for that week. So any players I bring in Game Week 28 obviously need to have a fixture, but also a double in 29. And preferably, I'm not removing too many players that I then want to bring straight back in. So they're all things that I'm thinking about. As it stands, I've got 5 players that are blanking. So Estepinian, Rashford, Matoma on the bench. I've I've also got Solly March and Erling Haaland. So 5 players missing out, which means I've got 9 players in my 11. Now, I have said before, you don't have to field 11 players in a blank game week if you think by doing so you'll get more points in the long run. So as an example, Rashford is on my bench. I could absolutely sell him or any of my midfielders to Maddison instead, who's got a fixture this week and a double in 29. But for Rashford in particular, I just think in the long run I'd much prefer to have him. And with the amount of doubles that the Brighton midfielders have got, I don't really want to sell them either. So although I might gain a small amount of points in the short term, I think in the long term I'd be worse off. So that's also on my mind. But I do have 2 free transfers, so I could easily get to 10 or 11 players if I wanted to. Now, with the defensive options I've got, I'm definitely playing Kepa over Raya, better fixture, better defensive team, and Trippier, Botman and Gabriel are going absolutely nowhere. As we saw last week, Gabriel does have a bit of goal threat. Hopefully I actually get one of his goals at some point again the rest of this season. And Crystal Palace at home is a really good fixture. Arsenal defence has been brilliant. Crystal Palace attack has been really poor. I know now I've said that they're going to score, but there's a very good chance of a clean sheet. And then I can decide what to do with him next week because Arsenal have Leeds at home. Now that is a good fixture, but there's no double game week there. So I might move Gabriel on to someone like Luke Shaw, but I don't need to worry about that for game week 28. With Trippier and Botman, they've also got a pretty good fixture this week, but they have a double in 29. So that's why I don't really want to sell them. The only 2 players I'm considering are Rico Henry and Estepinian from the defence. And the player that I would look to bring in is Ben Chilwell. Now, I've spoken about him quite a lot. If Graham Potter says that Reece James is fully fit, I may go for him instead. But I think Chilwell has played a lot more minutes recently. So he's currently my favoured pick. And the fixtures just look really good. It would be a double up on the Chelsea defence for Everton at home. Obviously, Ben Chilwell quite attacking in that wing-back system. 2 home games in 29. So even though they play Liverpool, the fact both games are at home really kind of makes me want a Chelsea defender, especially one that's going to be so attacking. And I think they will probably target that right-hand side for Liverpool, like most teams do, because Trent Alexander-Arnold doesn't always get the cover that he needs. So I think both those games look, or all 3 of those games in the next 2 game weeks look quite good. Then it's Wolves away and Brighton at home, where I'm not going to be worried about playing someone like Chilwell. So that looks quite good. After that, I'll decide what to do with him. I might end up free hitting in 32, etc. So that doesn't really matter. Now, the reason I'm torn between Estepinian and Henry is the fact that Henry's got a fixture this week, and it just doesn't feel right to remove someone with a fixture, but it also doesn't necessarily feel right to move someone like Estepinian, who when he plays is in a team that can get clean sheets, but also he is very attacking. There are more attacking returns to come from him, and we saw him get bonus last night as well. And if we look at, I just need to remind myself what the double is, which way around it is. Yeah, it's Brentford at home and Bournemouth away. That's a really good double. So I could get rid of Estepinian and then either get him back, but obviously that uses a transfer. I'm not completely happy about doing that. I could get a different Brighton player in instead, so I could get McAllister and go triple Brighton midfielder, or I could just not get a Brighton player straight back because there's other players with a double this week, and whenever they get their next double game week, then I could look to bring them in. But Brentford at home and Bournemouth away is so good. Do I really want to go in with only 2 Brighton players? And do I really want to mess around with removing one who I know has another 3 double game weeks after 29? Probably not. So when I think about all that, I don't really know if I want to sell Estepinian. The only reason I would do it is if I thought I had enough free transfers to get him back from 29. Not necessarily free transfers, but transfers that would be worth it even for a hit. Or if I really wanted to commit to triple Brighton midfielders, but I just don't know if I do. So then we come on to Rico Henry. Now, he has got a fixture this week, but I'd be very surprised if Brentford keep a clean sheet. I think after they played their first game in double game week 27, everyone was kind of sick of them already. But obviously, we saw them get a clean sheet against Southampton, so it's possible against Leicester at home. But I'm not massively convinced. He's not hugely attacking either. And obviously, the double for Brentford in 29 is pretty bad, right? Brighton away and Man United away. Now, some people might turn around and say, well, why did you get them in? But obviously, they had the double in 27, a good fixture in 26, and they play in 28. So there was a lot of reasons to go for them. And if there were loads of other issues in my team, I wouldn't mind holding on to him for that double and just hoping for the best. But if I've got the luxury of moving him on, I should probably consider that, because after game week 29, look, they don't have loads of bad fixtures or anything like that, especially up until game week 34, but they're also not as valuable to us as they were a few weeks ago because of the double in 27, 29 and the game in 28. So as it stands, I think I'm quite likely to remove Henry for Ben Chilwell and just keep Estepinian. And if Henry doesn't get an attacking return and Leicester score, I'm going to be really happy about that decision, because I'm going to be much happier seeing Estepinian in my team for 29 than Rico Henry. Obviously, if he goes and gets a clean sheet, maybe picks up bonus on an assist or something like that, it will be the wrong decision. I should have just taken the points now and decided what to do in 29. But that's how I'm feeling right now. I would just rather have Estepinian going forward than I would Rico Henry. So that's probably going to be one of my moves. Rico Henry to Chilwell. The only other thing I've considered, and I am thinking ahead to 29, is just keep it how it is. Don't use that transfer on a Chelsea defender this week, and just do Gabriel to James or Chilwell in 29, and just don't get Luke Shaw and think about getting David De Gea later on. Now, I know I'm thinking a long way ahead, but Man United have doubles in 34 and probably 37 as well. So having someone like De Gea in place that I can bench during any blanks or when he's got bad fixtures wouldn't be that bad of an idea. So that's what I'm thinking of. It's either Estepinian to Chilwell and get Estepinian back next week, or just get a different Brighton player, or it's Henry to Chilwell and just don't worry about the fact Henry's got a fixture, or just do nothing and get Gabriel to Chilwell next week. But right now, I am favouring Henry to Chilwell. Alright, so looking at the midfield, the two easy ones are Odegaard and Saka. They are definitely staying. They've got a fixture this week and a pretty good one at that. They're both nailed on to start. The minutes are good, etc. We know how good they are. I think in game week 29, they've got Leeds at home. So it's a good single game week fixture, but Arsenal have no more double game weeks left for the rest of this season. So it's almost certain that I will not own both of those players in game week 29. I think Odegaard will definitely go, and Saka is up for consideration. I basically want to leave my options open as to what to do with Saka next week, because if I get in a position where it looks better to hold him, then I can do that, and if I think it's just better to go for the double game week player, I've got that option as well. I just think because he's absolutely nailed, his minutes are great and he's on penalties and he's such good value in such a good team, I'm kind of in a position where I don't really want to sell him, but I do think it is a possibility that I might do it in 29. And just quickly on Arsenal players, it's not that they're suddenly really bad or anything like that. They're probably going to go and win the league. They're going to continue to score goals, get clean sheets. They're great value from an FPL perspective. But without the doubles, and when I'm planning to use my free hit, there is a case to be made to sell at least one, possibly two, maybe even all three. So 29, really good single game week fixture, like I said. They can definitely go and beat Liverpool away, but it is going to be a tough enough game. They're not going to go and score 3 or 4 goals, you would assume, in that game, unless things really go well. So it's not necessarily a great fixture. In 31, it's West Ham away. I wouldn't be happy about having 0 Arsenal players for that, it has to be said. But in the grander scheme of things, it might be worth it. In game week 32, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to free hit, right? And I'm actually quite happy to do that, because I could get triple Arsenal back for Southampton at home, really good fixture, triple Liverpool for Nottingham Forest at home, and just fill in the other 5 players with whoever I want. And ultimately that week, Brighton and Man City are almost definitely going to blank, so that's Haaland and my triple Brighton players out, so that's 4 players. And if Man United beat Fulham in the FA Cup, which we will know by game week 29, which is why I want to leave my options open with Saka, they and Chelsea will blank in 32 as well. And I might have Fernandes, Rashford, and possibly a third Man United player. So that could be 6 or 7 players that are blanking at a time where I don't have any Arsenal and probably don't have any or many Liverpool players for their good fixture as well. So it feels inevitable I'm going to free hit that week. So I'd basically be missing Liverpool players for 29, but loads of teams have got a double. Liverpool away and West Ham away. They could definitely get points, but they're not as good a fixture as they've had recently. And then I wouldn't have them for Man City away or Chelsea at home. And then I could think about possibly bringing them back afterwards. So that's why I want to leave my options open with Saka, but that's why I know it's almost certain I will probably not own both of them for 29. But let's get back to game week 28. The only transfer I'm considering with midfield is to get rid of someone that blanks, which would probably be Solly March, for Maddison, and then next week do Odegaard to McAllister. So that would switch March to McAllister, I do think is a better option going forward. Again, it's not that Solly March is now really bad. You don't have to get rid of him, but that is an option because he doesn't play this week. To get Maddison in with Brentford away and then a double in 29 and Bournemouth at home in game week 30. The only problem with that is I think I really want Fernandes for game week 29. So if I'm doing that, and I'm getting Maddison in for March, and I'm doing Odegaard to McAllister, I would have Maddison with a double, Mitoma and McAllister with doubles, Rashford with a double, and then if I want to get Fernandes, I then have to sell Saka. So it basically locks that move in, whereas if I just stick with what I've got and not go for Maddison, I've got the option of just doing Odegaard to Fernandes, keeping March and Matoma, and just holding on to Saka if I want to. And again, if I want to then get Maddison in next week instead, I could do that. But I just think Saka is very, very, very good from an FPL point of view, and I just don't know if I want to commit to selling him. So I will probably make no transfer with my midfield. The only one up for consideration right now is March to Maddison. All right, so let's take a look at the forwards, and we'll start off with Harry Kane. Now, he's not really someone I'm looking to use a transfer on because he's got Southampton away this week, and that's a pretty good fixture. And in game week 29, he hasn't got a double, but he's got Everton away. So I'll probably bench him because I have so many double game week players, but I am intending to use my bench boost in game week 29. The only reason I'm even considering the possibility, and it's only a possibility, of selling Saka but not really Kane, is just because of the amount of good midfield options there are for double game week 29 and then moving forward. Whereas with Kane, I'll probably have him, Watkins and Tony ahead of that game week 29 deadline. And if I want to sell Kane for a double game week, you're looking at like Havertz, João Felix, Iheanacho or Solanke, someone like that. And I think from 30 onwards, I'd probably rather just have Kane. Now, eventually he'll have to be sold anyway because I'll need the funds to go for other double game week players like Liverpool ones, for example. But for now, I think I'm just going to keep hold of him. And one thing I've got half an eye on, and I know this is a game week 28 video and I keep looking ahead, but with Kane, he's got Bournemouth at home in game week 31, and I'd quite like to keep him for that if I could. One of the reasons is because there is another really good captain option that week, which is Haaland, Leicester at home, but there's not many game weeks to come after that. There's still quite a few double game weeks, so lots of points to be made, but not a huge amount of actual game weeks. And if I get to game week 31 and my overall rank's not quite where I want it to be, and I want to kind of force it a bit, I want the option to captain Kane over Haaland. Now, for what it's worth, you're absolutely right. I will probably bottle that. I'll probably just be happy enough with my rank and I'll just captain Haaland like everyone else. But I just want that option to go for Kane instead. So I'm probably not going to even sell him in 29. But again, we can discuss that next week. With Tony, he has now become quite a problem because of this yellow card suspension. If he gets a yellow card against Leicester, he will miss both games in double game week 29 because it's now the 10 yellow card threshold. It's a 2-game suspension when you reach that. So if that happens, I'm then going to have to sell him next week. Now, I don't want to worry about that too much this week because if it happens, it happens. I'm happy to take an extra hit if I need to, but it is something to start thinking about because even if he doesn't get a yellow card against Leicester, if he got one in the first game against Brighton, he would then miss the second game against Man United and the game in game week 30 as well. So even if he doesn't get a yellow against Leicester, you might still want to sell him next week. Now, it's a little bit different to the Mitrovic situation earlier on in the season because you're not going to captain Tony anyway, and it is a pretty poor double game week, so you could just take the risk. But it's something worth thinking about now. But for game week 28 only, definitely keeping him because Leicester at home is a really good fixture. And then we come on to Erling Haaland. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm probably going to sell him to Ollie Watkins, and I'm almost more sure about that move than I am about March to Maddison or even Rico Henry to Chilwell, because I know what Haaland can do. I saw the 5 goals in the Champions League, but ultimately, what did that tell us? We already know he's an absolutely ridiculous footballer. The guy's already scored 28 goals in the Premier League, so him scoring 5 against Leipzig in the Champions League didn't really change much. I already knew he was very good. He cannot punish me this week because he's got no fixture. And in game week 29, he's only got a single game week of Liverpool at home. Now, yes, he could go and score another 3 to 5 goals in that fixture, but I think that would be a little bit unlucky for Watkins to blank in 3 games and then Haaland to get a hat-trick. So I think I'm probably just going to make the move, but it's also partly because of the Tony situation. Even if I get to game week 29 and I'm happy to hold on to him, he is an issue going forward. He's only 1 yellow card away from a suspension, and Brentford have got to get to 32 games before that goes up to 15 yellow cards. And obviously he's got this ban looming over his head because of these charges that have been brought against him. Try and get my words out. So the idea would be Haaland out for Watkins, and you do have to make sure you've got enough money to do this if you're considering it, because I can only sell him for 11.8 and he's 12.1, so I would need 0.3 to get him back. Maybe less if he goes down in price again. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. But I get Watkins back, have him for Bournemouth at home this week, which is a fixture I really like. Have him for the double, which isn't great because it's 2 away games, but it's still an extra fixture. And then keep him for Nottingham Forest at home, which is another good game like the Bournemouth one in 28. And then in game week 30, if I've got enough money left, I've got 8 million in the bank, but I'm going to use some of that on Fernandes in 29. I would just do Tony out, and get Haaland back. So my front three from 30 onwards would be Haaland, Watkins and Kane. And like I said, eventually Kane would go. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to make that move. And I think I'm the most sure about that move than any others. I just can't see a huge reason not to do it. Of course, it's 2 transfers, so that's one reason. And he could absolutely go mad against Liverpool. And I know for sure I'm going to want him back in. So there's all those things to think about. But I just feel like it's worth taking the risk. And if anything, the 5 goals in the Champions League kind of makes me want to do it more, because that's going to put a lot of people off. So this then becomes somewhat of a differential move. He's obviously going to be super high owned either way. And I'm not going to be happy about watching him against Liverpool in game week 29, because I know what he's capable of, and it definitely sets me up for a transfer in 30, but I feel like I'm okay doing that. I also think there's a chance that when we get to game week 30, I might talk myself into not going for him, just captaining someone else in 30 and 31. I'm free hitting in 32 when he'll probably blank anyway. And in 33, it's Arsenal at home. So maybe I just don't get him back until the double in 34. But that's very unlikely. I will almost certainly get him back in 30. So that's the moves. I think Haaland to Watkins is probably going to happen. That gives me 10 players. I don't think I want to sell Estepinian, so I might do Rico Henry to Chilwell, use both of my transfers, and go into this week with 10 players. And then in game week 29, make a few more moves, probably get Fernandes, maybe drop one or both of Gabriel and Saka, and then just see what happens on the bench boost, and then reassess ahead of game week 30 how much I want to push it. But I'm probably just going to get Haaland back straight away. But I think, like I said, I'm probably going to sell him this week. Anyway, I'm just rambling now. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let me know, are you going to sell Haaland this week, or do you think it is absolutely crazy? And if you've got any other reasons why you think this move shouldn't be made, let me know below. But I think Tony, for me, is a big factor of why I want to do it. But maybe I'm just overthinking it. Who knows? Anyway, I'm leaving it there. Give it a like, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you again soon.